At a bustling summer fair, a black beggar woman sat quietly on the sidewalk, hungry, invisible, judged. When she heard a lost white boy crying, unable to speak, she didn't hesitate. Using sign language, she reached out with gentle courage. What she didn't know was that his millionaire father was watching from afar, and within just a few hours, her life began to shift in a way no one could have foreseen. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The glaring sun beat down on the city summer fair, a bustling stream of people flowing with laughter, the lively music of circus acts, and the sweet scent of popcorn mixed with burnt sugar from cotton candy. Thousands of souls bustled, immersing themselves in the festive atmosphere, but no one saw a small figure lost in the sea of people. Blood was already trickling down the little boy's knees as his sobs broke, lost in the chaotic symphony of this great city. No one stopped. No one looked. For the hurried passers-by in New York, a crying child was just another sound, a hopeless low note in the noisy urban concert. But for Serena, even with hunger gnawing at her stomach for 2 straight days, that cry pierced through her last defenses. It was a sound of pain and abandonment she knew all too well. Just days before, she'd been evicted from her dingy room, managing to grab only an old backpack with a few worn clothes and a faded diary. From the moment the door closed behind her, the vastness of New York became her uncertain home. To survive, she wandered the streets, doing odd jobs for any store that needed temporary help, sometimes cleaning filthy restrooms, other times serving cold leftover food, just to earn a few coins for a dry piece of bread or a discarded meal. She was a homeless black woman, her hair tangled like an old neglected nest, her clothes worn and dirty draped over her slender frame, an old hat placed upside down in front of her as a silent, almost desperate plea. She was used to being ignored, to being treated like air, but the boy's cries etched themselves into her soul, awakening her fragile but still present protective instinct. That was Noah, a thin boy with blonde hair matted with sweat and tears, an old superhero shirt, and shorts stained with a bit of mud. His blue eyes were wide, filled with primal fear, reflecting the panic of a child who'd lost all bearings. He had severe difficulty with verbal communication, often using gestures or signs to express himself, so his sobs became even more desperate when no one truly understood the fear surging within him. He must have fallen, getting lost from his adult in his eagerness to explore the fair's novelties. Serena slowly approached Noah, weaving through the pushing, noisy crowd that barely noticed her existence. She gently knelt down, trying to catch his attention. However, Noah, lost and panicked, timidly recoiled, his blue eyes filled with fear mixed with wariness. He stared at her calloused, dark fingers, a stark contrast to his pale skin, and it seemed for a moment their worlds were too far apart. "Hey little one, what's wrong?" Serena softly asked, slowly combining gestures with practiced movements, as if her words were invisible strokes, clear and understandable. She patiently repeated the motion, her gentle gaze trying to reassure the trembling boy. She saw a bruise on his knee, bleeding slightly, but each time she tried to touch it, Noah flinched away, like a frightened bird caught in a snare. The crowd started to notice, their curious glances gradually turning into scrutiny, focusing on Serena. Whispers, judgmental stares pricked at her. "Look at her, what's she doing with that kid?" But Serena was too familiar with such baseless judgments. She knew what she had to do. Noah's cries were more important than any judging eyes. With infinite patience, she took a surprisingly clean handkerchief from her old backpack, her most precious possession, a treasure amidst her street life, carefully preserved like a relic, and gently placed it on Noah's wound. This time, Noah didn't flinch, his eyes still fearful but less tense as he felt the gentleness and lack of harmful intent from her hand. That simple handkerchief carried unconditional care. "It's okay, I'll help you," Serena said, signing as she looked straight into his eyes, trying to convey reassurance. Noah looked up at Serena with tearful eyes, initially fearful but then softening as he saw her gentle gaze and faint smile. He sobbed, trying to communicate with signs. "Lost dad, can't see." Fragmented words escaped his small mouth, interspersed with stifled sobs, but clear enough for Serena to understand. Serena understood immediately. She smiled reassuringly at the boy. "It's okay, I'll help you find your dad. Are you hungry?" Noah nodded, sniffing. Serena stood up, taking Noah's small hand, an invisible thread connecting two lost souls. "Come with me, we'll find your dad together." Serena held Noah's hand, slowly walking along the stalls, asking questions and explaining with signs to the boy. She inquired among the people if anyone had seen a man in a blue shirt with a bear print accompanied by a blonde-haired boy. The fair was crowded, the noise deafening, and the search was far from easy. About 15 minutes passed, each step a patient effort, leading Noah through every corner, every crowd. The boy seemed much calmer than before, his primal fear gradually fading, replaced by absolute trust in the woman holding his hand. Noah, holding Serena's hand, suddenly stopped, looking up at her with curious but no longer fearful eyes. He signed, "You dirty, why?" The halting words escaping his small mouth tugged at Serena's heart. Serena smiled, a smile imbued with deep sadness, yet also profound understanding, like moonlight cutting across a dark night. She signed slowly, patiently, "Because I lived on the streets, child. Life out there is very harsh." She paused, her eyes filled with sincerity. "But no matter what, my heart is always clean, pure." She raised her hand, lightly touching her heart, then pointed to Noah, then to her own eyes. She signed, "You see people, don't see me. But I see you, I see who you are." Noah looked at her, his blue eyes now devoid of panic, filled instead with understanding and trust, like a ray of light piercing through the darkness. In that moment, he didn't see a dirty homeless woman, but someone who truly saw and understood him. Serena felt a small satisfaction, a seed of kindness planted. One more person, one more moment of kindness, that was enough for her. Not far from the hot dog stand, Richard Montgomery was in a state of utter panic. His forehead was beaded with sweat, his brown hair disheveled from anxious raking. His eyes scanned the bustling fair crowd, desperately searching for a familiar glimpse of his son. Noah, his son, had vanished in just a few minutes while he was busy paying at the toy stall. He had let his security team off so he could have a rare moment alone with his son, and now, fear was clenching his father's heart, throbbing as if it might stop. Suddenly, his gaze swept across a scene. A familiar blonde-haired boy, in an old superhero shirt, was with a homeless woman. They were talking, no, they were signing with each other. Richard immediately recognized his son. He was about to rush forward, shouting Noah's name, but something made him pause. He saw the woman gently wiping his son's wound with an old but clean handkerchief, her patient communicative gestures that Noah seemed to understand. The boy, naturally shy and difficult to connect with strangers, was now listening to her attentively. This sudden and pure act of kindness, amidst the chaotic scene, left Richard deeply perplexed. In his world, everything had a price, every action a motive. But this woman, someone clearly struggling to survive, was sincerely helping his son, without expecting or demanding anything in return. It defied everything he knew, everything he believed, making him question the values he had always pursued. Noah suddenly stopped, pointing to a game booth filled with stuffed animals. "Dad, Dad, there," he chirped, his voice full of joy, as he ran towards Richard, the words fragmented but clear in his happiness at finding his father. Richard hugged the boy tightly, holding him close, his voice choked with relief. "Noah, where were you?" Dad was so worried. He then looked up at Serena, his eyes full of gratitude, a gratitude unfamiliar in his world. You helped my son, didn't you?" "She helped you, didn't she, Noah?" Serena smiled gently, relieved to see the father and son reunited. "Yes, the little boy was lost, I just guided him to you." Just then, a patrolling police officer passed by, his sharp gaze sweeping over Serena and Noah, then settling on Serena's haggard appearance. He had noticed this homeless woman for a while, leading the lost child, her unusual appearance beside a lost child. His face was full of suspicion. "Hey, you, stay still." The officer approached, his face clearly suspicious. "What are you doing with this child? We received a report about a suspicious woman with a lost child." Noah, seeing the police officer and the adults' tense faces, started to cry loudly in fright, clinging to Richard's leg. "Wait, officer," Richard quickly intervened, stepping in front of Serena. "She's the one who helped my son. The boy was lost, and she found him." The officer looked at Richard, then back at Serena. "Are you the boy's father? Can you prove it? My son was lost, and she took care of him." Richard explained, pointing to the sobbing Noah. Noah, do you remember she helped you? Was she good to you? Noah, now calmer, nodded vigorously, his hand still clutching his father's shirt, and tried to sign something about Serena, hurried but appreciative gestures, pointing at her then making a motion like stroking, reassuring. The officer was still not fully convinced, his eyes still scrutinizing Serena. We're just doing our job, we need to verify this. Serena stood there, silent. She was too used to these judgmental stares, these baseless accusations. She just looked at Noah, her eyes filled with sorrow at seeing his fear, as if seeing a part of herself. She knew her words would carry no weight. Richard looked at Serena, then at the officer's skeptical face. For a brief moment, he realized the injustice she was facing. Excuse me, officer, she is a benefactor to my family. I assure you there's no issue here. I'm taking my son home immediately. I'll provide full verification information. Finally, the officer nodded, but still gave Serena a scrutinizing look before leaving. Serena smiled faintly in relief, patting Noah's head. Remember to hold your dad's hand tightly, little one. Richard looked at Serena, his eyes filled with gratitude and a newfound respect. He pulled out his wallet, taking out a thick wad of cash, a natural reflex from his world. Miss Williams, please take this money. You've done me an immense favor, one that no money can repay. Serena gently waved her hand, her gaze firm, like a steady rock amidst swirling waters. There's no need, sir. The boy was very well behaved. I'm just happy you two found each other. That's all I need. Richard hesitated. He was used to solving every problem with money, but clearly, that didn't work with this woman. She wasn't the type of person he usually encountered. He looked at Serena one more time. She had an incredible pride and calm demeanor despite her difficult circumstances, a beauty that transcended any ragged clothes, a quality that money couldn't buy. Well then, Richard began, his voice unexpectedly changing, a new thought entering his mind. He recalled a resume that his HR department had rejected 3 years ago, the resume of a black woman, with a business degree and HR experience, dismissed simply for not fitting company culture. It was a nagging point in his mind. Would you like a job? Serena was surprised, her eyes narrowed slightly. She'd heard such offers many times, usually for menial, disrespectful jobs, just a way for people to give charity. What kind of job, sir? She asked, her voice full of skepticism, like a question she had asked 1,000 times in her life. I'm Richard Montgomery, he said, extending his business card, the glossy card with the Montgomery Enterprises logo, a familiar introduction in his world. Serena glanced at it, the familiar logo hitting her. Her smile faded, replaced by a blank expression, a bitter feeling rising. I run Montgomery Enterprises. I can find you a suitable position in our service department. Good salary, full benefits, you have a business bachelor's degree, and I know you once had 3 years of HR experience. You even applied to my company 3 years ago. Richard stiffened. He never thought this homeless woman could have a history with his company, a history containing injustice. I didn't know anything about your application being rejected, but I assure you, this time will be different. I will personally guarantee you, Serena. He emphasized her name, as a promise. And for you to get settled, I will offer you an advance on your salary, enough for your immediate expenses and to find suitable housing. It's a salary advance, not charity, but an investment in your talent. Serena looked at Richard for a long moment, her eyes shimmering with the complexity of hope, skepticism, and even the suppressed resentment from her past. The offer of an advance, not a handout, touched her self-respect. Finally, she gently nodded. All right, Mr. Montgomery. I accept the salary advance offer. I'll be there Monday. A faint smile appeared on her lips, a smile of quiet determination and newfound hope. Immediately after that meeting, Richard arranged for Serena to receive a substantial salary advance, enough for her to start her new life with a little peace of mind. The money was not only enough for her to rent a small decent room in Brooklyn near the subway for easy commuting, but also to buy essential items like new bedding, a few presentable office outfits for her first days at work, and most importantly, a basic phone for communication. Finding a safe shelter, having a clean bed to rest on after days of struggling on the streets, was an invaluable liberation. However, adapting back to normal life was not as easy as she thought. Serena took several days to readjust her body clock, to get used to private, quiet spaces again after long nights in the noisy city. She still occasionally woke up startled in the middle of the night, feeling as if she were still lying on the cold sidewalk, and it took a while to realize she was in her own warm room. The fear and insecurity remained, deeply embedded. On Monday morning, when Serena arrived at Montgomery Enterprises headquarters, she was no longer the homeless woman huddled under an awning. She wore a new, simple but neatly pressed office outfit, her hair neatly combed, and carried a quiet confidence, though still a little anxious inside. The receptionist didn't even look up when she entered, busy on the phone. "I'm here to start work." Richard Montgomery arranged it. Serena's voice was clear, making the receptionist look up. Her expression briefly showed surprise at Serena's appearance, but she maintained professionalism. "Please follow me." Richard had prepared a small but well-equipped workspace for Serena, not far from his own office. He knew that bringing her into the company would cause controversy, but he believed in the correctness of his decision. Before that, he had also quietly delved deeper into Serena's past, and discovered not only her rejected application 3 years ago, but also high praise from previous jobs, even if temporary. In the following weeks, as Serena began her work, Richard silently observed her from afar. He noticed her dedication, sharp intelligence, and ability to connect with everyone, even lower-level employees. At the same time, he also began to pay closer attention to the shortcomings in the company's hiring policies, especially the subtle bias against non-white applicants, something he had never truly clearly recognized before. Late one evening, Richard called Serena into his office. City lights twinkled outside the glass windows. "I reviewed the old file, and know about your application, Serena," he said directly, his voice lower than usual. "I apologize for that injustice. It was right under my nose and I never realized it." He paused, his eyes filled with remorse. "I want you to help me change everything, not just hiring, but how we operate as a large business. I need a different perspective, a voice I've never listened to." Richard told Serena about his concerns regarding the company's real estate projects, their negative impact on the low-income communities they were building in, and how the company had inadvertently pushed many people into difficult situations. Serena listened to Richard, a cautious trust rising within her. This wasn't a man who just apologized, but one who genuinely wanted to change. She shared her experiences, what she had witnessed on the streets, her deep understanding of social inequality, and how large corporations could affect the lives of the vulnerable. She also mentioned James Peterson, not with hatred, but with a cold analysis of how Peterson had run his department. Richard had known about Peterson and his behavior for a long time, but had never had enough evidence or the will to confront him. Both realized they shared a common goal to build a business not just for profit but for the community, and to expose those like Peterson who were tarnishing Montgomery Enterprises' reputation. Serena's first days at work were far from easy. Despite her qualifications and experience, being away from the corporate environment for many years presented significant challenges. The latest project management software, the complex technological processes the company was adopting, or even the modern office communication full of jargon and unspoken rules were all hurdles Serena had to work twice as hard to adapt to. She often stayed very late at the office, spending hours after work teaching herself, reading thick instruction manuals, and even enrolling in short online courses on management technology to quickly catch up with the company's pace. Some nights, she stayed awake, her tired eyes glued to the computer screen, trying to analyze a complex financial chart or a detailed market report, determined to fill the knowledge gap she had lost. Furthermore, her favored appointment by Richard to an important position, especially with her recent prominence, caused no small amount of murmuring and scrutinizing glances from some of Peterson's former colleagues, who still held influence within the company. They looked at her with suspicion, whispering in hallway corners about the lucky homeless girl or Richard's cheap PR project. Some even deliberately and subtly hindered Serena's work. They intentionally withheld crucial information, gave misleading advice or vague instructions in meetings, or even secretly spread rumors about her past to undermine her credibility and competence. This invisible pressure forced Serena to maintain high vigilance and re-verify all information and decisions before acting, to avoid subtle traps. She knew that even one small mistake could cost her everything. Once, when Serena proposed an initiative for a skills training program for the underprivileged at a departmental meeting, fully outlining the implementation steps and projected social benefits, a former colleague of Peterson named Mark Stevens, with a scornful, contemptuous look, openly questioned, "Miss Williams, are you sure you have enough practical experience to run such a large and important project for Montgomery Enterprises? Or do you think street experience is enough to build business strategy and community development for a multinational corporation?" Stevens' tone was full of sarcasm, and some in the room chuckled. Serena remained calm, her determined eyes fixed on Stevens. She didn't flinch. "Stevens," her voice was clear and confident, "I believe my life experience, combined with my professional qualifications and continuous self-learning, offers a unique perspective that the company needs. We don't just do business for profit, we create sustainable social value. My plan is based on data, market research, and deep understanding of the community that I gained through personal experience." She presented her argument sharply, providing compelling figures and detailed action plans, including how to leverage internal resources and connect with reputable non-profit organizations. Richard, though not directly intervening in the questioning, silently observed and supported Serena, providing her with necessary resources and strategic advice to overcome these obstacles. He began to realize that changing old mindsets within the company would be a longer battle than he had imagined, but he believed in Serena. The annual Diversity and Inclusion Conference of Montgomery Enterprises took place in a dignified atmosphere in a large auditorium. Stage lights shone. James Peterson walked onto the stage, still with his familiar self-satisfied smile, his eyes sweeping over the audience as if he were the company's sole hero. He began to present impressive statistics about diversity within the company, carefully arranged numbers designed to hide the truth. Serena sat in the front row, her expression resolute, her palms clenched but her face remaining calm. Richard stood in the wings, his heart pounding, anxiously watching every development. When Peterson finished his speech, receiving scattered applause, Richard stepped onto the stage. The lights focused on him. "I'd like to introduce everyone to a new member of our leadership team," he said, his voice sharp, echoing through the auditorium. "Miss Serena Williams will serve as the Director of Social Impact and Community Technology." A murmur of surprise rippled through the auditorium, louder than the applause before. Peterson's face paled, his smile frozen. He had no idea about this decision. Richard continued, his eyes sharp as daggers, looking straight at Peterson who stood behind him. "In recent weeks, Miss Serena has shown me the deep-seated problems that exist within our company, things I was too blind to recognize. We have failed to create a truly diverse and equitable environment, not just in numbers but in culture." He paused, his voice deepening. "And we have caused unnecessary harm to communities, to individuals who trusted the name of Montgomery Enterprises." Serena stepped onto the stage, standing next to Richard. Her face was calm, full of confidence. She looked directly at the audience, her gaze sweeping across each face, including Peterson's pale face and Mark Stevens' stunned expression. She began to sign fluently, skillfully, while speaking clearly and powerfully. "I was once invisible to this world. I was denied opportunities because of my skin color and circumstances, even at this very company. But I know that talent and value do not discriminate by social status." She shared her story authentically, about her encounter with Noah and what she had witnessed, and revealed that she had gathered undeniable evidence of past discriminatory behavior, especially internal emails, recruitment files marked low priority, and covert directives from Peterson related to rejecting applications from candidates who didn't meet his standards, standards that implicitly contained racial and social bias. Peterson couldn't bear it any longer. He hastily grabbed the microphone from a nearby podium, his voice trembling, lost in panic, like a drowning man desperately clinging to a straw. "This is blatant slander. She's trying to sabotage the company. She's a lucky beggar. How could she have any valid evidence?" he yelled, trying to regain control of the situation. Richard calmly interrupted, his voice echoing with authority. "James Peterson, you are suspended from duty immediately. All evidence has been collected and verified." We will conduct a full investigation, and any wrongdoing, however small, will be dealt with strictly according to the law and company regulations." Richard signaled to the security team, and Peterson was escorted off the stage in utter humiliation, leaving a stunned auditorium behind him. Backstage, Richard looked at Serena with deep gratitude, mixed with admiration. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "You have shown me things I never dared to acknowledge, never dared to confront. You have saved the honor of this company." And deep down, Richard also felt a sense of relief that he could finally confront the dark corners that had existed in his own empire for so long, like a tumor that needed to be removed. After the conference, a powerful wave of change swept through Montgomery Enterprises. Richard Montgomery, with Serena's strong support, implemented a complete restructuring. Serena, in her role as Director of Social Impact and Community Technology, became a key figure in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just on paper but in practice. She established mandatory diversity awareness training programs for all employees, changed hiring policies to ensure fairness, and built an anonymous feedback channel so all employees could voice their opinions. It was during this process that the special bond between Serena and Noah, along with Richard's understanding, became a powerful inspiration. Noah often visited Serena at the office. The boy, thanks to her patience and unique communication methods, grew more confident in expressing himself. Serena noticed Noah still had few opportunities to interact with other children in similar situations, and that sparked an idea within her. Following Noah's innocent suggestion, Serena founded and developed Project Sign Language. Initially, the project focused on creating a safe and fun space for children with communication difficulties, especially those who were deaf or autistic, including Noah. Serena designed interactive classes, using games, music, and art to help the children learn signs, express emotions, and connect with each other. She also invited pediatric psychologists and sign language teachers to participate. One of the most memorable moments was when Noah, for the first time, stood before his new group of friends at the center. The boy, with Serena's guidance, used still clumsy but emotional signs to tell the story of getting lost at the fair and being found by kind Miss Serena. The group of children listened intently, and then they all practiced signing Noah's story together, creating a touching symphony of signs. Richard, visiting the center that day, witnessed the entire scene. He stood silently, filled with immense pride and gratitude for Serena. He realized that Serena was not only changing his company, but also transforming the lives of children like Noah, giving them a voice and a community. Project Sign Language didn't stop at classes for children. Gradually, it expanded to train and create real employment opportunities for this community within Montgomery Enterprises and its partners. In parallel, a new Montgomery Vocational Training Center, built on a previously abandoned piece of land in the city's poor neighborhood, now became a symbol of hope. This center not only provided temporary housing for homeless individuals and struggling families, but also focused on specialized skills training such as programming, data management, HVAC technician roles, and traditional crafts. Under Serena's direct leadership, the program was meticulously designed, including psychological counseling sessions to help participants overcome past traumas, soft skills classes like interviewing and communication, and especially job placement sessions with Montgomery Enterprises' extensive network and partner companies, ensuring sustainable opportunities for vulnerable individuals after completing the courses. Serena also pioneered the development of assistive communication technologies, including digital sign language tools and intuitive visual interfaces, helping those with communication difficulties like Noah learn and integrate more effectively into both learning and working environments. James Peterson was fired and faced severe legal consequences for his discriminatory actions. His career had shattered, and his reputation was ruined. Although changing old mindsets within the company did not happen overnight, and Serena still faced new challenges from some conservative individuals who quietly resisted her new policies, with Richard's steadfast support and the clear positive results from her projects, she gradually solidified her position and influence. She learned to confront resistance with strategy, patience, and concrete evidence of her work's effectiveness. Richard, seeing Noah's positive changes and Serena's impact, became even more determined. He personally learned sign language from a special teacher to better communicate with his son, and that was also a way for him to better understand his son's world. Noah often visited Serena at the office, and the boy always felt safe and understood when he was with her. He often drew colorful pictures of Miss Serena and his new friends at the center to give to her. On Serena's one-year anniversary at the company, she received a surprise gift from Richard and Noah, a small carefully wrapped box. Inside was a new pristine white handkerchief exquisitely embroidered with the image of a hand signing hope, along with a simple handwritten note. This handkerchief not only wipes away tears, but also marks a new beginning, a blank page full of potential for great things to come. Her eyes welled up as she realized the profound meaning of the gesture, a symbol of her journey from darkness to light, and the belief in a brighter future. Serena gazed at the city from her office window, a place where she was once invisible and now was creating positive changes every day. She understood that true transformation wasn't a single explosive moment, but began with compassion and the courage to act, to persevere, even in the smallest actions. And as the city lights twinkled in the night sky, a simple truth remained. Sometimes the most revolutionary act isn't tearing down empires in ruins, but transforming them from within with kindness, understanding, and unwavering resilience.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.